Good evening. Welcome to Trending at 10 p.m. with me, Vishnu Shom. On the program tonight, the Prime Minister refers to two of our greatest military leaders, Field Marshal Cariappa and General Thimayya, in an election rally in Karnataka. But the references are all confused. And then the Congress responds and comes up with even more gaffes. It seems clear. And ask any military veteran this. Our politicians usually don't care two hoots about our military history. But come election season, military lore comes up all the time. Is the legacy of our armed forces fodder for politicians during elections? We'll get to that in a moment. First, here's a quick look at some of the stories trending on our website, ndtv.com, and on Twitter. Many artists have boycotted the National Award ceremony after being told the president will only give them away to some, the INB minister, the rest. A teenager allegedly committed suicide after she was gang raped by 8 men near Gurgaon. The police have filed FIRs. No one has been caught as yet. Nearly 100 people are dead, mostly in UP, in freak storms that hit North India on Wednesday. And a quick look at some of the big trends on Twitter. Many artists have boycotted the National Award ceremony, as we mentioned. But Sridevi winning the National Award posthumously for her performance in her film Mom was something that's been trending as well. Well, in an election speech in Karnataka today, the Prime Minister referred to two of Karnataka's greatest military leaders, Field Marshal Cariappa and General Thimayya. He spoke about how the two leaders had been insulted by the Congress party but seemed to get his answers confused. And in their Twitter response, the Congress party also went grossly wrong with their understanding of military history. Well, there have been several reactions on Twitter to the remarks made by the Prime Minister. Now, here's a fact check on what Mr. Modi said and what history says.
फील्ड मार्शल करियप्पा हो, जनरल थीमैया जी हो, उनके प्रति कांग्रेस सरकारों का क्या रवैया रहा था, किस प्रकार से उनको अपमानित किया गया था, ये इतिहास भली भांति आपको बताता है। 1948 में पाकिस्तान से युद्ध जीता फील्ड मार्शल जनरल थिमैया जी के नेतृत्व में, लेकिन उस पराक्रम के बाद कश्मीर को बचाने वाले जनरल थिमैया का उस समय के प्रधानमंत्री नेहरू और उस समय के रक्षा मंत्री कृष्णा मेनन ने बार बार अपमान किया था।
Well, for starters, the Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army during the time of the 1947-48 war against Pakistan, the first war fought by independent India, was General Sir Francis Butcher. He was a Britisher, not Thimayya. Thimayya did lead the army in operations in Kashmir, participated in the war, but went on to become the army chief only in 1957. Neither was he insulted by Prime Minister Nehru or Defence Minister Krishna Menon after 1948. That did happen, but it happened much later in 1959 when he was army chief and offered to resign after Krishna Menon as Defence Minister rejected his views on China's military build-up. But the knowledge of military history among our political leaders, or the lack thereof, doesn't seem to be restricted to the BJP. The Congress spokesperson Randeep Singh Surjewala, and taking on the Prime Minister, tweeted. He subsequently did delete this tweet, but this is what he did tweet initially. Modi ji, better start reading from a paper to brush up your knowledge of history. In 1947, Karnataka Pride General Thimayya was the High Commissioner to the UK between 47 and 52 and not Army Chief. Now, Mr. Surjewala, General Thimayya was fighting Pakistani forces in Kashmir during the 1947 war, as you can see in this very rare footage of the actual operations in 1947. The first Indian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom was in fact Krishna Menon, the same Krishna Menon the Prime Minister had also spoken about in his Karnataka speech today. Now, the Prime Minister also refers to K.M. Cariappa, India's first Field Marshal. Listen in before we fact check.
फील्ड मार्शल करियप्पा 1962 भारत और चीन की घटना आज भी इतिहास की तवारीखों में दर्ज है और उनके साथ फील्ड मार्शल करियप्पा जी के साथ क्या व्यवहार किया गया।
In fact, Cariappa had retired 9 years before the 1962 war, so the Prime Minister's remarks appear confusing. It is, however, correct that in 1951, Cariappa, who was the first Indian Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army, had also warned Nehru about China, but was told it's not for the army to decide who the nation's enemies would be. So it's confusing, perhaps not enough research being done about our military history. But in all of this, I've spent some time bringing out that part of our history which our politicians seem to have forgotten about. The first war fought by an independent India in 1947-1948. We've been speaking about General Cariappa, who later became Field Marshal Cariappa. This is an actual soundbite of Cariappa with footage from the 1947-1948 war.
We will not allow Jawdari to capture Leh. We've got to stop this, and we will stop it. We must link up with Leh as soon as possible through Jersey Pass, Dras and Kargil. The successful conduct of this operation will mainly depend on how far we'll succeed in getting the tanks up to the top of Jersey Pass, which is very nearly 10,500 feet above sea level. This kind of thing has never been done before. Anyhow, we'll have a good shot at it.
That's military history, not what we are hearing from our politicians today. That's real military history. If you're going to be bringing up these names, then shouldn't you at least be doing some history? Joining us to look at this, Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, the former Director General of Infantry in the Army. Mandeep Singh Bajwa, the military historian, joins us from Chandigarh. Raghav Awasthi of the RSS and Tom Barakan of the Congress Party. Raghav, let me come to you first, and really it's the same question which I have for the Congress as well. Where was the fact-checking? Where were the people who wrote the Prime Minister's speech? How could they mix up things?
Vishnu, I feel that the import of the Prime Minister is said somewhere got lost in translation. I think what he said was कि General Thimayya के नेतृत्व में. So I think from this to extrapolate that he was somehow implying that he was actually the army chief, I think what he was saying is that he was under his leadership, he was part of the leadership group that won the 1947-48 war in Kashmir.
Carry on.
So, and I think the serious faux pas has been committed by the Congress Party's communications department when they sent, when they sent the good general to the UK when he was actually fighting a war in Kashmir.
Would you like to respond to that?
Sure enough. What an explanation. The Prime Minister of this country messes up a speech. If I could give you the correct perspective,
General, 1 second, sir. General, 1 second. This is Tom Barakan responding from the Congress. I'll come to you next. Carry on.
He's speaking to countrymen, about Karnataka.
Let me tell them the history first. Then they can comment on it.
No,
General, give us...
General, 1 second. It's only fair that he responds, and then we've got time. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Barakan.
He's the Prime Minister of this country. The military advisor should have given him the right perspective, the right history. But they haven't. But that is a reality which has happened. No, now, as to the question of the Congress, I did speak to Surjewala ji. It's been since corrected. Look, we are open for correction. We make mistakes, but we correct it. But not like this. You make a speech and then you have the spokesman coming and defending us.
But I'm telling
you, we made a mistake. We correct it.
More people actually saw your tweet most likely than
we corrected
they saw the
it
Prime
immediately.
Minister.
We immediately
One
corrected.
is on Twitter. The whole world sees it instantly.
No, we corrected it. But has the Prime Minister come to
I just find it, Mr. Barakan, I find it amazing that our political parties bring up the issue of our military history and don't do basic fact-checking.
To a certain extent, the comment did get lost in translation.
The Prime Minister, no, it didn't get lost in translation. The remarks on Cariappa, you got the Prime Minister may have gotten away with it on a technicality when he referred to criticism of Thimayya after the 48 war. That's correct. However, the criticism happened much later in a different context. Right?
Exactly. But
and the remarks on Cariappa and 1962, Cariappa had retired far before 1962. So again, technically he may be correct, but the context is all wrong. Somebody who wrote that speech didn't write it accurately. If you're talking about history, you have to be accurate.
No, I think there are 2 points. I would repeat what I said. The first part did get lost in translation. He did not say that the good general was army chief then. He did not say that at all.
He almost certainly
he said
implied
Netritva mein. Netritva means that he was part of the leadership group in Kashmir.
All right.
No.
That's true. Oh, General Prasad can't wait to get in on this. Go ahead, General. We're all ears.
Generals on this point.
General Prasad, come in, sir.
Vishnu, give me a couple of minutes.
Carry on, sir.
Let me put facts correctly for everybody to discuss. After that, any amount of discussion take place. You rightly said General Butcher was the army chief. The Western Army commander was General Cariappa. At that point in time, there was a person called Kulwant Singh who was also in charge. The task given north of Pir Panjal at that point in time was to General Thimayya, who was an infantry officer from the Kamau regiment. And the military operations to be done south of Pir Panjal was by General Atma Singh. Okay. General Sri Nagesh was subsequently appointed the Western Army commander. So the people who were actually involved in fighting the war in 1947-1948 were starting from Butcher, who was the army chief, who was in league with the Pakistan army chief, and they were miscotting over there. General Cariappa, General Sri Nagesh, General Thimayya, General Kulwant Singh, and General Atma Rao were the sole people who were spearheading operations in Kashmir. Therefore, in essence, the liberation or the protection of Kashmir north of Pir Panjal, credit goes to General Thimayya, who was then commanding 19 Infantry Division, which is looking after all of north of Pir Panjal. The south of Pir Panjal credit goes to Atma Singh, who was commanding the Rajouri thrust line. That is one particular fact. Therefore, whether the Prime Minister used the right language or not the right language is not for me to discuss. It's a political matter the politicians can discuss. The historical fact of the 47-48 war is what I have narrated. Therefore, to say that General Cariappa was the army boss north of Pir Panjal is not incorrect. To say Atma Singh was not the boss of the military operations south of Pir Panjal is not incorrect. To say that General Sri Nagesh was commanding the Western Army is not incorrect. To say General Cariappa was the man who was looking after the whole operations in Kashmir is not incorrect. Now, how the political leaders put it across is up to them and up to political leaders to discuss and discard or take it. This much I will say as far as Kashmir is concerned. I will come to China when you start China. If you want, I can finish that.
No, we'll come to you when it comes to China. We'll come to you when it comes to China and Cariappa's.
In about no, let me finish that. Let me finish. Then the political parties can discuss it. Let me finish the China.
I'll come back to you also, sir. General Prasad, I'll come back to you on 62.
At that point in time.
Yeah. I'll come back to you on 62.
If I can put the facts correct, Vishnu, if I put the facts correct, political
but
parties
sir, can I please decide how to run my own show? General, I'll come to you in just a moment so that I can just split it all up.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll come to you. We've got time. Mandeep Singh Bajwa, I think actually both the Congress and the BJP are clutching at straws over here. The point is that the Prime Minister seemed to imply in what he said that Thimayya was leading the army at that particular time. What Raghav points out is that look, Thimayya was one of the major leaders. Nobody is disputing
that. South of the Pir Panjal, the general said that he was leading.
Was Atma? South of the, no, there was Atma Singh. Was Atma Singh north of the Pir Panjal?
That's Kashmir. North of the Kashmir Valley.
North of the Pir Panjal was perhaps Thimayya.
Kashmir Valley.
The general's answer was nuanced, that there wasn't one political leader, there were many political leaders. The Prime Minister chose to refer to Thimayya because he was trying to score polititle points in a political context in Karnataka.
In Karnataka.
He raised the issue of Karnataka, of Thimayya, because he was be that as it were. I think, Mandeep, the point over here is that there were inaccuracies which were made. This was not an exact statement of fact. Why didn't the Prime Minister, for example, directly say that Thimayya is a son of Karnataka and Thimayya was insulted by the Prime Minister and Krishna Menon several years later? Why did he seem to mix it up with 47-48? Is it because nobody remembers 47-48?
Well, see, it's gracious of the Congress to admit the mistake. But, this is not the first time that the Prime Minister has made such a mistake. He makes gaps on historical matters, accuracy, details of history with, unceasing regularity. But, trying to use the name and the reputation and the legacy of General Thimayya and Field Marshal Cariappa to score political points in the Karnataka elections is a big no-no. I wonder why he feels the need to do so. Will it really help him? I mean, we all know, and it's quite thing about General Thimayya looking after operations in Kashmir and Ladakh. But he had so many people above him. There was General Srinagesh, who was the corps commander, not the army commander, as General Prasad said, and General Cariappa, that time General Cariappa, who was the army commander, and of course
Cariappa was the army commander. Cariappa was the army commander. No, I said Cariappa was the army commander. Srinagesh was the corps commander.
General,
and just for your information, Kulwant Singh was earlier looking after that force, which was called the Jack Force. So please don't distort history. There was a thing called Jack. No. At the time when the operation started, it was called Jack Force. A gentleman called Kulwant Singh was leading there. Subsequently, the forces were created under Thimayya and Singh. At that point in time,
one sec, General Prasad, one sec, General Prasad,
the Western Army commander.
One sec, let Mandip make his point. Mandip, go ahead. Yes.
All that. Kulwant Singh was.
No, he's making a wrong point. How can I let him go?
I'm not sure he's making the wrong point. If you listen to what he's trying to say, sir, just go ahead, Mandip. Yes.
Kulwant Singh was the initial commander in Jammu and Kashmir, commanding JK force, which was bifurcated in January 48 into JA division, commanded by General Atma Singh, and Sri division, commanded by General Thimayya, which looked after operations in Kashmir and Ladakh. And later on in the year, after the summer offensive,
not 3 Dev, 19 Dev.
General, will you please, Sri Dev, SRI.
Not 3 Dev, 19 Dev.
SRI.
No, he's giving a wrong fact, yaar. He's giving a wrong fact. It is 19 Dev, not 3 Dev.
No, he's not saying 3 Dev, sir. He's saying 3 Dev, SRI.
It was 19 Dev, not 3 Dev.
He's not saying 3, he's saying 3. But in any case, both of you, let's take pause, because we don't want to get into this entire account of what I'm trying to look at is inaccuracies made by politicians in these speeches, and I want to stick to that particular theme. The other point which was mentioned by the Prime Minister was on Cariappa. Let's listen in to what he said once again.
Field Marshal Cariappa 1962 भारत और चीन की घटना आज भी इतिहास की तमारों में दर्ज है और उनके साथ फील्ड मार्शल करियप्पा जी के साथ क्या व्यवहार किया गया.
He was talking about Raghav, the 1962 war. Why did he need to bring up Field Marshal Cariappa at that stage?
No, I think the larger point that he was trying to make is that even though the military brass did try to impress upon the then Prime Minister that there was an urgent need for some action on both the western and eastern fronts as far as China was concerned, those warnings were repeatedly ignored.
Cariappa retired 9 years before the 1962
I think we have to understand the larger spirit in which the statement was made. And no, the larger spirit...
It's historically inaccurate. The remark which was made as far as Cariappa is concerned was I believe in 1951. It was several years before. The 62 war was not a reality. At that stage, Cariappa had apparently told the Prime Minister that we have concerns about China, and he was told, look, we will decide as a nation who to be friends with. But to link up Cariappa of the 50s with the 1962 war is a historical inaccuracy.
So just give me 20 more seconds, just need 20 more seconds.
He referred to 62 to the Prime Minister.
I think the genesis of 1962, I mean, they lie in the 1950s, when the warnings of the military brass were ignored, and General Cariappa in hindsight has proved to be prescient, and historians of the future, when the non-Darbari historians, that is, get to write the history of this country, they will definitely say that Mr. Nehru should have regarded, and Mr. Krishna Menon, more importantly, should have regarded, had they taken General Cariappa's advice seriously, then the 1962 debacle could have been
averted. But the Prime Minister seemed to mix up the issue of Cariappa was nowhere around in 1962. He retired
but I think the warning was put on record in the 1950s.
There were several warnings. There were warnings by Thimayya as well. There were warnings by other military leaders.
If
you are talking about a particular military leader who happens to be arguably India's finest military son, and put him in a context which is not entirely historically correct, aren't you? Are we remembering him the way he should be?
I think the Prime Minister was actually paying a very rich compliment to General Cariappa's abilities as somebody who had a great idea of how the military situation would evolve in the neighborhood, and had his warning been regarded, then the debacle could have been avoided, and had these, this forward post policy, this ill-advised.
Okay, he makes a point that, look, we are missing the larger issue that the Prime Minister was trying to raise. I agree with him to a certain extent. I do feel that facts were spread out and stretched a little bit, but the overall message which the Prime Minister was trying to send is that, look, let's honor these people because they were insulted at some level by Congress leaders of the time. This is factually correct. Even Nehru, in the case of Thimayya in Parliament, said things which upset Thimayya very
Krishna
deeply.
Menon did say something about India not needing NATO arms. And if you read Bruce Riedel's new book, I'm not an expert on military history, he did say that when the war started, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru went, he abjectly begged before the Americans for help.
Go ahead, yes.
The larger question is being missed here. The larger question is, this is a political rally. How many times are the brave hearts who have fought for this country being used for this purpose? Tell us what you have done last 4 years. Let us know what your agenda is. What are your promises? Elections are not about what Cariappa ji did and did not do. Elections are not about your generals. They have fought. They are great sons of India. We are proud of them. But what are you using them for today? I mean, you're trying to win votes on what you have done. And when you don't have anything to show, you go into history, and that too, history which is miserably incorrect. You use the word confused, but this is not confusion. This is people who have missed out on the correct dates of history. If you really wanted to use history, use it in the appropriate
let him respond.
I think it's really unfortunate, that what is sauce for Dugu is not sauce for the gander in Mr. Vadakkan's book. The Siddaramaiah can talk about a separate state flag and how Gujaratis are insulting Karnataka, but I think these are also legitimate issues. The Congress has insulted great sons of Karnataka in the past, and there is no harm if the Prime Minister brings them out.
How can you say that? We have honored these people.
Let me just go across
the
to
honor
Mandeep.
they have received from this country is recorded history.
Mandeep,
I don't want to go into it. It will be insulting them.
Mandeep, isn't the larger issue over here that our politicians, most of them, not all, don't really care very much for the history of our armed forces? When election season comes, then to spur on patriotism which drives everybody else, the leaders of these military of our forces and wars which everybody has otherwise forgotten about, sadly, comes up in a center stage political rally. Isn't it misappropriating what our armed forces actually did, what these great leaders actually did?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And this is not the first time. It's been happening in the past also. All parties do it, though perhaps the hyper-nationalists now seem to have a monopoly on this. But, the thing is that they're content to use the army and, misquote, distort and otherwise twist military history. I mean, talking about these two generals from Karnataka being insulted, in what way were they insulted? I mean, General Cariappa was made a field marshal long after he retired in 1986. And General Thimayya got all the honor. He's still remembered as arguably one of India's finest soldiers.
Absolutely.
But the other point is, when it comes to doing something for the armed forces, then they're all absent. They refuse to recognize the armed forces or veterans. I mean, we've seen that on OROP. We've seen that on the question of
Gandhi did away with it.
Parity as far as appointments in the Ministry of Defence is concerned. Even the Chief of Defence Staff, it's been done away with. They've set up a defence planning group and done away with the.
Okay, Mandeep, I just want to get General Prasad in for a quick last comment. General, should our political leaders stay away from invoking the names of our military leaders or military actions in political rallies? I mean, for example, the surgical strikes were raised in an election rally. Now, yes, the government can take credit for taking a bold decision, but ultimately it was the army and soldiers on the ground who carried it out. And their purpose in doing that was to serve national security, not to do something which would help a political leader during an election.
Vishnu, I am not the person to comment on what the political leaders should say or should not say in the rallies, because I am not a politician by any stretch of imagination. I just want to put the historical fact correct, which everybody needs to know. General Cariappa brought up the issue of the Chinese threat. well before 62.
Yes.
At the time of 59 or thereabouts,
Yes,
General
precisely.
Thimayya, who was the army chief, brought it up, and Mr. Bholanath Malik, who was then the IB chief, prevailed upon the Prime Minister not to take the view of the army chief, and the army chief was belittled. At that point in time, General Thimayya decided to resign. But his resignation was not accepted by the Prime Minister, and he cajoled everybody else around to force him to withdraw it. General Thimayya withdrew his resignation. Thereafter, the Prime Minister belittled him in the Parliament. Thereafter, that was the where he.
So therefore,
he did
General,
not,
what you are talking about is a great
position
deal of historical nuance.
What he did not
Therefore,
do to
in
Cariappa
political
was
speeches,
he decided to
General,
make
I'm out
the
of time,
Congress
which is why I'm
government decided to
interrupting
make
you.
him
I need to wrap
Field
up my
Marshal
show.
9 years
I
after
think
his
the
retirement.
points that you raised
I have
today
nothing to say about
are
the political
important.
matter, but this is the factual.
No, but General,
military
one
history.
second. General, I'm out of time. I'm interrupting you not to be rude, but because I'm out of time. But I think the points that you've raised about historical nuance, about names and times and years and dates are important when our political leaders in election rallies decide to bring up military fact. Military history is serious business. We're out of time. Thanks very much for being with us.